move because I've got kids here, you see, so I need to put things in order.
South Africa is plagued by high unemployment, crime and strained public services. And unfortunately, migrants have become one of the targets of citizens' frustrations. But Ghana warns the hostilities risk dividing the continent and undermine efforts towards free trade.
It's a problem. It shouldn't be done. But it's also a manifest of the fundamental issues that we need to resolve. So it's an opportunity for organizations and development organizations like us to take action on both fronts, from the supply to the demand side.
While Pretoria has condemned the violence, things on the ground are taking too long to change.
The condemnations that we've heard coming from the different quarters on the continent should not just end in condemnations, but there should also be willingness to constructively engage on what are these issues and factors behind people seeking to leave their countries of birth and seeking refuge elsewhere.
But African countries say the unrest reflects deeper hostility towards migrants that South Africa has repeatedly failed to address. As pressure mounts on Pretoria, the unrest is becoming more than a South African issue. It is now testing African unity, but the crisis is likely to persist as long as issues such as unemployment and poverty remain the Achilles heel for many African economies. Julie Shah, CGTN, Cape Town.
To Sierra Leone, which has agreed to take in hundreds of West African migrants who are being deported by the U.S. The foreign minister says the first flight of so-called third country deportees will arrive in the country on May the 20th. The 25 deportees are nationals from Senegal, Ghana, Guinea, and Nigeria. Sierra Leone signed a three-country national agreement with the U.S. to accept 300 ECOWAS citizens from the U.S. per year with a maximum of 25 a month. The U.S. has previously sent third-country deportees to other African states, including the DRC, Ghana, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea, and Eswatini. It has drawn criticism from legal experts and rights groups over the legal basis for the transfers and the treatment of deportees sent to countries where they are not nationals. Time now for our sports segment. Here are the headlines. Coming up, VAR controversy as Mamelodi Sundowns beat AS FAR 1-0 in the CAF Champions League Finals first leg. Well, welcome into Sport on Africa Live with me, Richard Todd. Let's get going with football. The CAF Champions League Finals between the Mamelodi Sundowns and AS FAR Rabat of Morocco ended in a 1-0 win in the first leg tie for Sundowns, but it was overshadowed by the failure of the VAR system in the second half at Pretoria. The hosts broke the deadlock after 37 minutes when left back Audrey Modiba fired in a superb free kick from 25 yards out. However, the match was suspended at the start of the second half for about 30 minutes after the VAR system malfunctioned. AS FAR initially refused to continue until it was fixed, but agreed to play as the situation was being addressed and then eventually fixed. The South Africans now take a slender advantage to the second leg next Sunday in Morocco. And in the CAF Confederations Cup, Algerian side USM Alger have been crowned this year's winners after defeating Egypt's Zamalek 8-7 on penalties in a dramatic finals on Saturday night. The Egyptian Giants won the second leg 1-0 through Ode Al-Dabag's early penalty, leveling the tie at 1-1 on aggregate after USM Alger's victory in Algiers a week earlier. But after a tense battle failed to produce another goal, the Algerian side held their nerve in a marathon shootout to snatch the title in front of a stunned Cairo crowd. The triumph earned USM Alger their second Confederations Cup crown, $4 million in prize money, and a place in next season's CAF Super Cup, where they will face either Mamelodi Sundowns or FAR Rabat. While celebrations have rocked Algeria's capital, as USM Alger fans hailed their team's victory against Egypt's Zamalek in the CAF Confederations Cup Finals on Saturday night in Cairo. Thousands of fans lit flares and danced after a dramatic 8-7 win in a penalty shootout sealed their second cup trophy in 3 years. Zamalek's Mohamed Shahata missed the 8th spot kick before Glody Lekonza converted the decisive penalty for the Algerian side. Fans said their team deserved the victory as the best team this season.
I congratulate us on the win. We deserve it. The players thankfully played strongly. Congratulations to us for winning the 3rd African title.
I congratulate our team for the win, the 4th star. We now shift our focus to the African Super Cup.
As his final game with Liverpool rapidly approaches, Egypt's Mohamed Salah made clear his disappointment with how the Reds performed this season under Arne Slot, with whom Salah fell out in December. After Liverpool lost 4-2 to Aston Villa, the Egyptian said the team must go back to winning trophies and to the heavy metal style they were famous for during Jurgen Klopp's tenure. The comments have attracted wide reaction on social media as Salah prepares to leave Liverpool on a free transfer at the end of the season. In his time with the Reds, he claimed 2 Premier League titles, a Champions League triumph, 1 FA Cup, and 2 Carabao Cups. The Egyptian is the club's 3rd all-time top goal scorer. And in squash, the PSA World Championships concluded on Saturday night in Giza, Egypt, culminating in 2 thrilling all-Egyptian finals. In the women's game, Amina Orfi defeated compatriot and 8-time world champion Noor El Sherbini. The teenager upstaged El Sherbini 6-11, 11-6, 11-9, 7-11, and 14-12 to become the sport's youngest women's world champion. It came in 106 minutes of nail-biting action, the longest women's squash match in PSA World Championship history. Orfi also becomes the first player to hold the junior and senior world titles at the same time. And in the men's finals, world number 1 Mustafa Asal claimed the world title for the 2nd year in a row, dismissing compatriot Yusuf Ibrahim in straight sets, 11-4, 11-1, and 12-10. The top seed controlled the match from the outset, showcasing his pace, precision, and attacking intensity. After Egypt, World Squash Tour continues with the British Open at the end of May. And English Premier League side Chelsea has appointed Xabi Alonso as the club's latest manager on Sunday on a 4-year deal beginning July the 1st. The former Real Madrid and Bayer Leverkusen manager becomes the 5th permanent appointment following Graham Potter, Mauricio Pochettino, Enzo Maresca, and Liam Rossinier. Alonso returns to English football after making 210 appearances for Liverpool as a player before leaving for Real Madrid in 2009 and later ending his playing career with Bayern Munich in 2017. Chelsea are 9th in the Premier League and facing a long-shot battle to qualify for European competition after losing the FA Cup finals to Manchester City on Saturday. Well, let's now head to China now, where 1,485 runners from over 50 countries took on one of the most challenging races in the global running calendar, the Great Wall Marathon in Tianjin, China. The 23rd edition of the race took the participants onto the historic Chinese Wall, where they had to trek 5,164 steps. One of its features was the steep climb on the wall, where runners had to conquer old and uneven stone steps. Participants traveled from all over the world to combine vacation and adventure and running. Mexico's Antonio Jose Ramirez Hernandez was the fastest man in the full marathon, finishing with a time of 3 hours, 27 minutes, and 6 seconds, while Germany's Stephanie Ruan took the women's title in 4 hours, 3 minutes, and 35 seconds.
It was really amazing. Such a beautiful landscape, and it was really, really cool to run on the wall. It is my first, my 3rd marathon in life. I only do half marathons normally, but this was a perfect place for doing my 3rd marathon, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it was brutal. And the last little bit on the wall, gnarly.
Yeah, but that's a bit, but yeah, a lot of fun. Wow, unreal. Great to race out here, hey? Wow. Absolutely amazing. Yeah.
Well, that is it for this edition of Africa Live. Remember, you can send us your feedback to the contacts on the screen and follow us on digital media platforms. For the team, I'm Richard Nta saying thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned and stay here on CGTN for more news.
there's a very strong symbolism that we can pick from the past.
My father represented manhood in Africa, masculinity, virility.
If I could reduce all my arrogance enough to learn from Madaraka.
At 5,895 meters, Kilimanjaro is the highest freestanding mountain in the world, also making it recently recognized as one of the several natural wonders of the world. A now dormant volcano, Kilimanjaro towers above East Africa's Rift Valley, the birthplace of the human race. While thousands come from all over the world and have 1,000 different reasons to climb Kilimanjaro, more people die on this mountain than on Mount Everest. For Ugandan Jafar Amin and Tanzanian Madaraka Nyerere, this is more than a potentially deadly challenge to reach the top. Their climb is a journey of peace, of discovery, of reconciliation. In the 1970s, the presidents of Uganda and Tanzania did not see eye to eye. Their tumultuous relationship finally resulted in all-out war. That was seen by most as a battle for the soul of post-colonial Africa, as this was the first war between independent African states. The question was this: would post-colonial Africa be shaped by military strongmen or socialist visionaries? A world defined by Idi Amin Dada, the dictator of Uganda, or Julius Nyerere, the founding father and president of Tanzania? Their sons have lived very different lives and yet have some striking similarities. Madaraka Nyerere is known for charity work and is often invited to public events to celebrate the legacy of his father. Jafar Amin spent much of his formative years in exile in Saudi Arabia, the only one in his family who has come back to Uganda to lead a public life. One brought up Catholic, the other a devout Muslim. But both are writers, fathers, husbands, proud Africans.
I kept on meeting people from outside the country who have climbed Kilimanjaro, and each time they ask me, have you climbed Kilimanjaro? I go, no. So I decided that I wouldn't want to answer no again to that question.
Madaraka challenged his East African neighbor to climb to the peak of the mountain together.
I've always loved a challenge. Let the past be a learning lesson for Africans where they can come together and actually start appreciating the beauty of the country, of their region, whether it is the East African community or Tanzania in particular.
So, these African men who have traveled such different paths will find out just how different they really are. They will challenge each other's notions of their fathers and perhaps make peace with the past. Together with a number of friends and guides, they will commit to a grueling, often dangerous week-long climb through 5 distinct climate zones. Tropical rainforest, heath zone, moorland, alpine desert, and the treacherous icy wasteland of the Arctic zone, where they hope on the 7th day to reach Uhuru Peak and the roof of Africa. On the way, they will surely have to confront each other with the past. But unlike their fathers, whose conflict lasted almost 8 months, making this journey together over a week's time should lead to a better understanding of each other and of their continent, Africa.
From the beginning of the victory on Kumba.
We call it the Kagera War in Tanzania, but it was the war fought between Tanzania and Uganda in 1979, and that's where everyone decided that our two fathers are enemies.
The school teacher socialist Julius Nyerere, who was president of Tanzania from 1964 to 1985, is revered as one of the key figures in the movement for liberation from colonialism. Though he ruled with a one-party state, he is one of the most popular leaders in African history. Ugandans celebrated when the military strongman, Idi Amin, took power in 1971 because he also resisted colonialism. But in time, Idi Amin became a corrupt and bloodthirsty tyrant who is estimated to have sanctioned the murder of hundreds of thousands of his own people.
79 was a nasty thing, but it started way back when they said we cannot have a soldier. His father would say, we cannot have a soldier as a ruler.
Idi Amin had long distrusted Julius Nyerere. After he seized power in 1971, the man he overthrew, Milton Obote, settled in Tanzania. In 1978, several political intrigues inside Uganda threatened the Idi Amin regime. Idi chased some mutineers off to Tanzania, eventually deciding to invade. The Tanzanian army fought back and repelled the Ugandan invasion. Julius Nyerere chose to continue into Uganda, and the Tanzanian troops overthrew the Amin regime. Idi Amin and his family fled into exile and finally settled in Saudi Arabia. Jafar was only 13 years old when he was forced to leave home in East Africa.
It was an experience and a half. Exile, flight, culture clash, coming from the beauty of the equatorial region to desert.
To see what she had, what I could take with me.
Which one?
Then I found this one, yeah. No, because I also need...
There was incredible retribution. From 1979, you were practically killed for being a particular religion. You were practically killed for being from the Kakwa or from the West Nile region. If you put Idi Amin's name or his picture in your room, believe you me, they would mete out retribution to you. And today, no one in my family feels they have the courage to stand up and be counted.
Jafar eventually left Saudi Arabia to study in England where he kept a low profile. Returning to Uganda in 1990, he finally decided he couldn't stay away from his African home. Hiking onwards and upwards, moving out of the rainforest and into the heath zone. Madaraka and Jafar share very different childhood memories.
I come from a massive family. Officially we claim we're 40, but I've personally counted, I've tabulated it up to 60. Getting that window of opportunity with your parent from an extremely large family, and then somebody who was actually more or less a king in his society, a ruler rather than a statesman. It means we had very little time with him.
We didn't have so much contact with families of other leaders, of other heads of state or presidents. And so when we were growing up, we didn't have anything to compare our childhood with. We were taken to schools which every other Tanzanian went to, so we didn't go to any special schools. And that's, to us, that was normal to us. We didn't think like we had to live a better life than others. We had to compete on merit, on our grades, and not on our names, on who our father was.
He's more jolly than I expected. He's such a reserved fellow.
Nobody recognizes me except just because someone has pointed me out. Do you know who that is? Then I become a celebrity for a few hours. But I've been given this column and I write. I don't have any training as a journalist, but I've taken some writing courses. And I think sometimes when the stars are aligned correctly, I write some good articles.
My father represented manhood in Africa, masculinity, virility. He was one of Africa's ultimate strongmen. Not everyone comes and tries to look at the softer side or the silver lining of who my father was. But me as a child, I promised myself to show more of the humanity. I've never had a need to feel defensive. When you're confident, you answer. You don't fear the repercussions of what you say. True. Asante, Karibu.
Most people I meet in Tanzania, they immediately compare me to him, and so they expect to see certain values that he upheld in me. And I think even his critics say that he was not a corrupt person. He did not amass wealth. He had a genuine interest in ensuring that the ordinary life of the people was improved. So it's not so much pressure, because I think generally I accept the values that he upheld, and so it's not like I'm struggling to keep up with what he tried to be in his life.
On day 4, the serious climbing begins. The goal is to reach 4,500 meters. The mountain guides have been encouraging the climbers to walk slowly. This high, they risk mountain sickness, a potentially fatal condition caused by high altitude and decreasing oxygen. They must move deliberately to acclimatize.
How high are we now?
It should be more than 4,000.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling okay.
It's in the line.
The African leaders always act like chiefs or kings. That's the way they rule. They expect us to be subjects. They've always ruled in a particular way, which was actually copying the colonial format. The colonizers, the plunderers, felt they had to dehumanize the population to enable them to take what they felt they deserved. The misunderstanding was that my father, an African, was actually using the same form of rulership that the colonialists used on us for over 72 years. That's the dilemma Africa is still grappling with today.
Just that. My father's main legacy is he fought tirelessly for the unity of this country. The relative peace that we have enjoyed from independence up till now, compared to the civil strife that you find in some of the countries which surround us.
Kilimani/Puppy. Kilimani/Puppy. African/Puppy, the natural way. The real thing.
Yahoo!
I would like to.
The steep, almost 250-meter climb up the Barranco wall is the challenge that faces Madaraka and Jafar on the 5th day on the mountain. People, mainly porters, die every year here from altitude sickness, hypothermia, heart attacks, or brain bleeds. Some lose their balance and fall from the slippery rocks.
They mark the spot where one of the porters died while working. Sometimes they might know who it is, but Hamisi says he just knows that it's someone from Arusha, but he doesn't know the name.
When contemplating the lives that are lost on the mountain, Madaraka and Jafar are also left wondering about the lives that have been lost to political struggle and war.
There's a very strong symbolism that we can pick from the past. The fact that our countries at a certain time were at war, and his father was leading the other country, and my father was leading Tanzania. It should be seen that we are together. This is very important.
There we go.
Fast sons across the continent, whether their fathers have Swiss accounts or not, have to give back. The onus is on us to be seen to be giving back to society. It doesn't have to be money. It's just your time. I can't stop loving my parent, but I have to be able to show that there's something positive that we can do in this world.
Whoa! There we go. That's actually it, huh?
Yeah.
Whoa!
One step at a time.
He has a cordial approach to life, just like his dad. And if I could reduce on my arrogance enough to learn from Madaraka, I feel I have a lot I can learn. And learning from him is very important for me. He was using something that was a tried and tested way of ruling Africa.
Good worm, yeah, son, yeah.
Like the advisors that helped the fathers navigate the difficult landscape of African politics, the mountain guides brought Madaraka and Jafar toward their goal. The sure-footed mountain guides epitomize the best of both confident and compassionate leadership.
We are now right on top of the Barranco Wall. Oh, breakfast. Wow.
How you doing?
Great.
Good?
Good.
You don't mind heights?
It's a bit scary, but it's good. I suffer from acrophobia, fear of heights, but I'm not looking down.
Madaraka's porch.
Why sunscreen, eh? Why the need? I've got natural melanin. Why sunscreen? I always fight against this. I don't know why. All aboard the night train.
Kilimanjaro, out of all the 7 continental summits, has the highest failure rate. So many get turned back on this final 7-hour grind to the top.
Nice. Get your balance before you take your next step. That's really important because sometimes you might think you're stepping on stable ground and suddenly you find that you're stepping on something which is not stable and you might twist your ankle. So get firm footing on your leg before you take the next step.
Many say it's a very good thing that the climbers do most of the last stretch in the dark. Because if they knew how far and how steep it is, they'd give up and go back. But again, it's the guides, the leaders. Supportive and strong at every step of the challenge.
Easy.
And keeping spirits as high as the summit.
What was my relationship to this man? This misunderstood man, this man who shares both accolade and abhorrence equally. It's an incredible catch-22 situation for me as his son. How can you love somebody who others claim is amoral or immoral to the world's sensibilities or religious sensibilities? And you ask yourself, okay, I think he took a stand and he said, you guys, colonialism was wrong, slavery was wrong, racism was wrong. I think that's where he gains his accolade. And I say, okay, that little light might be the thing that can actually bring us together.
The first time I met him, I felt he was trying too much to protect his father's past, or trying to correct it, as he would say sometimes. But I would imagine it's really difficult to try to do that. It's the overwhelming image that people have about his father is negative. So I've tried to tell him just to try and stay away from the past and try and focus on the present and the future. And I think he's managing to do that. So it's not easy, but I think he's trying to do that.
So when I see the quiet dignity of my friend Madaraka Nyerere and the warmth towards me and the acceptance, it is simply me being able to say I can live my life out of the shadow of my father.
It's a kind of miracle if you think about it. We being here, being real friends, me seeing him as a brother. That's a miracle, by the way.
Let's just get to Uhuru Peak. We will.
No.
Well, hello. It is great to be back with you again on Lens on Africa.
Let's zoom our lens on its political history at this moment.
Algeria did not have a centralized political structure prior to its colonization by France.
It is now time for our weekly roundup of African history. Welcome to the interview segment on Lens on Africa.
Examines its relevance, the pathways to achieving it.
To sustain productivity, there must be continuity.
Where the winds whisper secret, to the sands lies the forgotten kingdom of Daamat.
It is on this note that we conclude Lens on Africa today.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
Africa's favorite song by the BBC listeners and readers.
Sweet mother, I no go forget you. For the suffer where you suffer for me, yeah.
The rumba styling master was another rave-making reggae artist of the 80s until his death in 2018. This single was part of the Under Pressure album and made headlines for many years.
Some play reggae, some play calico, some play reggae, some play disco. But now this one is a rumba style, yeah, rumba style. This a one a rumba.
Nigeria's Lady of Songs, Chrissy Esen Igbokwe, is one whose music crossed tribal lines, as she is a multilinguist. Sheonrere rocked airwaves and won many hearts. She is also popular for her
Senate pushes state police after fresh school abductions.
Nigeria's budget office explains legally extended fiscal year framework.
National Center for Disease Control assures Nigerians of no Ebola cases amid regional outbreaks.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss taxpayers' protection in Nigeria.
So, Jumai, for the first time in Nigeria, there is now an agency whose job is not to collect taxes, but to protect taxpayers from unfair treatment.
And also think about it, Victor, that for just for a moment, and in a country where businesses and ordinary citizens have spent years complaining about multiple taxation, aggressive enforcement, and confusing demands from different agencies, now the federal government has introduced a completely new power player into the system, and it's for the people.
True, and that's the office of the tax ombud, and leading that office is a respected tax expert, policy strategist, picked as part of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's sweeping economic reform agenda.
And honestly, Victor, this could become one of the most talked about, reforms in Nigeria's fiscal history in taxation. We've had history of taxation way before the colonial masters came into the country.
And that's because this office arrives at a time when trust in the tax system has been dangerously low.
Yes, as businesses have accused authorities of intimidation, SMEs have struggled under overlapping levies, like we said earlier, and many taxpayers simply feel there was nobody independent enough to listen when disputes got messy.
Now, government is attempting to change that narrative completely. The tax ombud is expected to serve as a neutral voice, investigating complaints, mediating conflicts, promoting transparency, and making sure tax authorities themselves are held to account.
Very important, and it is also essentially Nigeria saying the tax conversation can no longer be built on fear alone.
But in spite of these glowing reviews, there are some debates on this. Now, while many experts are applauding the creation of the office as a good and overdue step, others are already questioning whether the office truly has enough powers to challenge the system it was created to monitor.
Good point there, Victor. And yes, the office can investigate complaints and recommend action, but it cannot directly enforce decisions or stop tax agencies from proceeding against taxpayers.
Well, it's actually a conciliatory role, not a confrontational one. Exactly. It is a mediatory, you talk to this and talk to that, find a middle point, how do we get a solution? So there's nothing that is so difficult. It's just going to be brinkmanship. And so critics are asking that difficult question. Is this the beginning of genuine accountability in Nigeria's tax administration, or simply another elegant reform with limited bite?
Well, either way, all eyes are now on the country's tax ombud, because the success or failure of this office could shape public confidence, which has been eroded with time in Nigeria's entire tax reform movement for years to come.
So today, our first conversation will focus on Nigeria's new kid on the block, the Office of the Tax Ombud, and its plan to protect taxpayers. We will also give some attention to the 50th anniversary of the Radio, Television, Theatre and Arts Workers Union, Ratawu. On that note, let me welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, the first for this week. I'm Victor Azo. Thank you for joining us.
It's good to see you, Victor. And I'm Jumai Yusuf. I also welcome you to the program. We're live on the network service of the NTA. The newspaper review comes up shortly, but first, let's get the latest news from Mina Daniels. Good morning, Mina.
Good morning to you, Jermaine and Victor. Oh yes, I mean, no more deep heat. It's cool everywhere. Okay, this is the news. The Senate has condemned the abduction of 87 students and teachers in Borno and Oyo states within 24 hours, calling it an attack on Nigeria's future. Senate leader Okpeyemi Bamidele in a statement said reports on suspected gunmen taking 45 people from 3 schools in Orire local government area of Oyo state on Friday, while Boko Haram fighters abducted 42 students from a school in Askira Oba Borno state, highlights the urgent need for state police, which is now at an advanced stage in the constitutional amendment process. He explained that the National Assembly will conclude its part of the review before transmitting the proposal to state houses of assembly for approval and urged state governments and legislators to treat the plan as a matter of national security and avoid partisan or ethno-religious politics. As an immediate measure, the Senate leader called for full implementation of the Safe Schools initiative to protect students and reduce the country's 18.3 million out-of-school children, adding that when the National Assembly resumes on June 2nd, lawmakers will finalize the state police bill and move to amend the Terrorism Act to strengthen punishments for violent crimes. Operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency (NDLEA) have intercepted consignments of cocaine and various opioids concealed in cartons used to package clothes and other items bound for the United Kingdom and Australia. Military-grade bullets concealed in Gary were also intercepted, among other seizures in an operation within the period covered by the operation. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention, NCDC, has confirmed that there is currently no case of Ebola virus disease in Nigeria, despite ongoing outbreaks in the Democratic Republic of Congo and the recently reported imported case in Uganda. In a statement issued by the agency's Director General, the NCDC said it is closely monitoring developments across the region and collaborating with relevant stakeholders, including the Port Health Service of the Federal Ministry of Health and Social Welfare, to strengthen vigilance and preparedness within the country's public health system. The agency noticed that surveillance systems for Ebola and other epidemic-prone diseases remain active nationwide. Nigerians have been urged to remain calm, practice proper hand hygiene, avoid contact with the body fluids of sick individuals, and report any unusual illness to the nearest health facility. Healthcare workers were also advised to maintain a high level of alertness, particularly when attending to patients with symptoms linked to Ebola and relevant travel history, while strictly observing infection prevention and control measures. The NCDC assured the public that it will continue to monitor the situation closely and provide timely updates, urging citizens to rely only on information from the official public health authorities. The Budget Office of the Federation has acknowledged public concerns regarding the publication timeline for the recent quarterly budget implementation reports and considers it important to provide clarification within the broader constitutional and fiscal context governing public finance administration in Nigeria. A statement by Tanimo Yakubu, Director General, Budget Office of the Federation, on the publication timeline of quarterly budget implementation report, explained that the fiscal year is not necessarily synonymous with the calendar year, stressing that the calendar year is a fixed chronological construct of 12 months running from January to December. It adds that the fiscal year, however, is a juridical and legislative creation whose duration, commencement, and terminal date are determined by the extant appropriation framework enacted by law. Accordingly, where the prevailing Appropriation Act or related legislative instruments authorities expenditure, implementation, or validity beyond the ordinary 12-month cycle, the operative fiscal year correspondingly assumes that legally extended character. In the case of the federal government of Nigeria, FGN, the practical operation of fiscal administration has at various times departed from the strict January-December calendar cycle. And that's the news at this point in time. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Jume and Victor after the break. Just stay with us.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose Gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
Some say learning is fun, but as a mom, I see how demanding it can be for my child. That's why I ensure he starts every day with a cup of Bonvita. Bonvita. Prepare them to win every day.
The world needs moms. With a splash of Golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Change no thanks into yes please. Resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty family meals is all that matters. Where there are moms, there is love. Golden Terra oil, pour pure love. Cube, unwrap joy, unleash taste.
Guys, food is ready.
To impress.
Ina fata wannan kulawan da kake bani za ta ci gaba bayan mun haihu.
Kin ga Lami, bayan kin haihu zan ƙara dagewa da ƙwazo wajen nema don kula da mu.
Za mu jima ba, za mu ƙara tara yawan yaya.
Me gida a shirye kake kenan? To ni kuma fa?
To mu tattauna mana. Na samun mafita.
Tattaunawa tsakanin ma'aurata yana da muhimmanci. Mu tattauna.
Yanzu mun san abin da kowa ke so.
Godrej Air Pocket? Wow!
With Power Gel technology, keeps the bathroom fresh for up to 30 days. Godrej Air Pocket. Bye-bye bad smell. Hello sweet fragrance.
Good tasty food is worth living for. Worried about your oil? Every time you enjoy your favorite meal? Introducing Smart Balance. Smart Balance Rice Bran Oil is rich in Gamma Original. Golden Terra Smart Balance Oil reduces bad cholesterol.
The prestigious NTA Television College, widely recognized for its professionalism and excellence in media training, has achieved another significant milestone. In addition to its existing affiliation with Ahmadu Bello University Zaria for the award of a degree in mass communication, the college has now received official approval from the National Board for Technical Education, NBTE, to commence National Diploma, ND programs in mass communication and multimedia. Additional programs are also in progress. Admission requirements: a minimum of 5 O-level credit passes in relevant subjects. For National Diploma ND programs, minimum JAMB admissible score of 100. For degree programs, recommended JAMB score of 180 and above. This is a great opportunity to become part of the college's growing legacy in media and broadcast education. For more information,
visit our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or call these following numbers: 0803-838-4343, 0806-980-9897. Announcer Management.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, and it's now time for newspaper review.
All right. Of course, there's no Chukwudi Obaja today because he had to be somewhere.
I miss him already.
Well, I don't miss him.
I miss him.
I hope he's watching. I don't miss him.
I miss
Let's
him.
have fun. All right, we'll begin with this Nigeria. And the lead story here reads, Triumphs, Shocks at APC primaries. And it has riders. Abbas, Obasa, Amewule scale through as Ihawere fails. Losers kick, cry foul. Weakest joint coalition group wins Rivers. And just by the nameplate, FG tightens grip on contract variations, cost inflation. That story is on page 6. Other stories, Senate backs state police after fresh mass school abductions. 42 students seized in Borno. 45 teachers, pupils, kidnapped in Oyo within 24 hours. That story is on page 5. And the final one from here, which is, an editorial though, South Africa xenophobia. Nigeria must back and bite. To know what the author is talking about, continue on page 4. Let's take a look at the leadership now. The leadership leads, again, with the APC primaries, the reps primaries. NWC stops state panels from announcing candidates. That's on page 4. Above the nameplate, Senate decries abduction of 87 students, teachers in Borno and Oyo. That's on page 7. On page 18, PENCOM seeks 200% gratuity, 100% final salary pension for police retirees. Below the nameplate, insurers race to meet recapitalization deadline with 8.2 billion naira rights issues. You get details of that on page 4. And to the rest of the stories. Before then, this picture story which details a victim of a collapsed building in Abuja, Zaharuddin Musa, being rescued at the site of the incident in Durumi Gudu district in Abuja. Yobe 2027, ADC picks former INEC commissioner as governorship candidate. That's on page 28. On page 15, WHO declares Ebola outbreak in DRC, Uganda, a global health emergency. Kano Censorship Board slaps 1-year suspension on 2 Kannywood actors. It's on page 7. And 1 year into OPE's 1.2 billion naira 10-year scholarship initiative, what's next? It's on page 18. And finally from here, APC governors, predecessors in tight Senate primary contests today. You get details on page 32. Jumai?
Yeah, I've got a busy front page on the Blueprint newspaper this morning, and above the masthead of the Blueprint newspaper, Boko Haram convict Kabiru Sokoto appeals life sentence for Catholic Church bombing. You find the details on page 6. And below the masthead, NMRDG urges states to commence early action against predicted flooding. Details also on page 6. Nigeria's favor monetary easing as inflation pressures persist. That's coming from a CBN survey. And in sports, Nigeria placed 3rd as curtain falls on African weightlifting championship. Find the details on page 32. And the headlines we see there: APC reps primaries, Wike's allies, Buhari's son Obasa Abbas Kalu win tickets. I have riders there. Majority leader Ihonvere loses. Ondo begs aggrieved aspirants. Kaduna aspirants seek review of exercise. Coalition wants irregularities addressed. And Akpabio Bamidele Bora will get tickets ahead Senate primaries. All the details on page 6 and 9. And at the side piece of the picture story, which Mr. Victor has already read, FG will soon release delayed budget reports in phases. That's coming from the budget office. And security, slain ISIS commander linked to Dapchi school girls abduction. That's coming from the DHQ. That clarifies Al-Muniki's identity. Details is on page 8. And at the bottom plate of the blueprint, Oyo school attack, carry out total overhaul of security architecture. Alafi tells federal government. Page 13. Patients are dying. Return to work. UUTHCMD begs striking doctors. You find the details on page 9. And NMPCL strengthens healthcare, hands over MRI machine to Inewi Hospital. Find the details on page 2. And NDLEA intercepts UK-Australia bound drug shipments, destroys 65,000 kilograms of skunk in Delta State. You find all the details on page 20. Quite the headlines we have this morning.
A lot of politics dominating, and I'm sure it will be the same tomorrow because the APC primaries for the other day was Saturday was for House of Representatives.
We have the
Senate holds today, where you have even more difficult battles. Governors, incumbent governors, and sitting senators.
Incumbent, yes, and governors whose term is expiring by next year who want to go to the Senate, and then we have sit-out senators who don't want to leave. It says rumble in the barn, I call it.
Some have done only a tenure, so not sit tight in all cases.
Yeah. So, but we see Akpabio Bamidele, they get tickets ahead.
Because of the consensus arrangements where it works.
Where it works.
Where it doesn't, and they have to go to the polls.
And this Durumi, collapse building over the weekend was
one too many.
One too many. We've discussed it here on Good Morning Nigeria so many times. Collapse building causes and why these things happen. Human factor, or you get to read all about it in the paper. And slain ISIS commander linked to Dapchi school girls abduction. It's a good news that he was captured and killed, in crossfire, but people are celebrating it for some time now. The success is recorded in the past few weeks. It's quite commendable for the joint military command. It's a good thing. And the Oyo school attack, both in Maiduguri and Borno State and Oyo, is
that's a sad one.
Like we were discussing before. Not again.
That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Not again. Our children should be protected in school. The parents trust the school to protect them. So many, the school's Safe School initiative comes into focus now. What's happening? How is the funding like? And
that has been talked about. Yes. That has been talked about for quite some time. The Safe School initiative. I'm not sure what's holding it back from really fully kicking in. Because it becomes important if the kids are going to be scared of schools. Then that portends danger, especially when we are talking about the number of out-of-school children already. You can't afford to scare those that are already in school from going to school.
Boarding schools, when you go to boarding school, it's an experience. I went to boarding school, it was fun. And when you're afraid for your child to go and stay in the school, then the whole idea of education itself is eroded. In any nation that I just don't want to talk too much about this Safe School initiative. Implementation has always been a problem, but I hope they will seriously look into it now. Like they are laughing and saying a total overhaul of security architecture is needed in Nigeria.
And then the health concern, the WHO, of course, the NCDC is allaying fears at the moment that there's no Ebola in Nigeria, but the fact that you have in countries nearby. And because the free movement across the world, then you have to watch it. What are we doing already to ensure that we are able to nip in the bud if you have someone coming in? with it.
The proper checks at the airport and all that.
We have to take steps to ensure that it doesn't get here.
And hantavirus is also there. Viruses have always been there, but it sort of comes up all the time, and we should be scared. I'm scared already. I don't want to die under such conditions. Yes, of course.
It will be fine.
It will be fine. And doctors are on strike at the UUTH CMD Beck, striking doctors to return. It's, when doctors go on strike, it's the people that suffer. We know there are so many issues, pending on the table, on agreements and all that. But when you take an oath to protect lives, it comes first.
It does come first, but you have to also feed. You have to be alive to save lives. And so it's somewhere in between. Their welfare has to be looked after, and they also have to keep an eye on the oath that they have taken.
And this one, NEMA DG urges states to commence early action against predicting. Do they need to be told? The prediction is out there already, and we know the flood paths and everything that happens during rainy season in Nigeria. I think action should be taken continuously before the next rainy season comes, not just when it's here and then you decide to take actions. Both human and government, people around the place that is, flood prone should just be careful. Water will always find its path.
So we have to watch it. All right.
We have to watch it.
Juma, I guess we have to go.
Yeah, we have to go. Oh, you want me to go? So you do the program.
We have to go from this segment. You go nowhere. All right, that's our newspaper review, and Good Morning Nigeria begins in earnest after this break. Please don't go away.
Ina fata wannan kulawan da kake bani za ta ci gaba bayan mun haihu.
Kin ga Lami, bayan kin haihu zan ƙara dagewa da ƙwazo wajen nema don kula da mu.
Za mu jima ba, za mu ƙara tara yawan yaya.
Me gida a shirye kake kenan? To ni kuma fa?
To mu tattauna mana na samun mafita.
Tattaunawa tsakanin ma'aurata yana da muhimmanci. Mu tattauna.
Yanzu mun san abin da kowa ke so.
Imagine lovely meals you can cook with these ingredients. You spend heavily, but no guarantee of a tasty meal. Not making a right choice of seasoning cube can ruin your meal, money, and confidence. For a tasty meal, do not compromise. Choose gold.
Use Terra Gold for the rich, consistent taste your loved ones crave for. Good for soups, stews, and jollof. Terra Gold. 1 cube, endless possibilities.
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress. The world needs moms. With a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Change no thanks into yes please. Resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty family meals is all that matters. Where there are moms, there is love. Golden Terra oil, pour pure love.
Once upon a time, there was a land plagued by blandness. Food had lost its flavor and there was nothing left to savor. Just then, the tastemaker arrives to restore taste to this land of blandness. All she did was sprinkle, stir, and serve. And from that day on, they knew one truth. All they need is sprinkle, stir, serve.
Tastemaker.
Darling natural twists blend with her hair over time.
Yeah, that's perfect.
She's really more beautiful every week. Darling natural twists get better every day, just like you.
A new
edition of TV Guide is out, featuring an interesting personality with vast experience in the digital ecosystem. Professor Ibrahim Adeyanju, Managing Director and Chief Executive, Galaxy Backbone Limited, takes us through the garment of revolutionizing the workspace through digitalization.
Galaxy started in 2006. We started with pure research technology, satellite technology. We've been able to move from 2006 to providing fiber backbone, to having 2 data centers, to improving the bandwidth in terms of internet connectivity that we do to MDS. That is great progress.
Power, privilege and public trust with Comrade Salihu Abdulhamid Dembus, Director General NTA. Welcome to a world of fun and excitement as we also present an assemblage of professionals in the media space. Some compelling NTA programs, current trends in the fashion world, ICT, sports, entertainment and lots more. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Get a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
We're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. And to begin our conversation on protecting taxpayers in the country, here's a background report by Timothy Yusuf.
As Nigeria pushes for stronger revenue generation and improved tax compliance, attention is increasingly turning to one important question: who protects the taxpayer? That question is at the heart of the newly created Office of the Tax Ombudsman, an institution established to strengthen accountability, fairness and trust within Nigeria's tax system. The Tax Ombudsman is designed to serve as an independent and impartial channel where taxpayers can report complaints against tax authorities without immediately going through lengthy court battles or confrontational enforcement processes. The office is expected to handle issues such as arbitrary tax assessments, multiple taxation, harassment and intimidation by revenue officials, delays in resolving disputes, abuse of enforcement powers, and unfair treatment of taxpayers. Unlike a court or a tax collection agency, the Ombudsman is intended to function as a neutral mediator, protecting taxpayers while also helping to improve confidence in the country's revenue system. The creation of the office comes at a time when many Nigerians, especially small business owners and informal sector operators, continue to raise concerns about excessive taxation, duplicated levies, and aggressive collection methods by some authorities. Supporters said the tax ombudsman could become a major safeguard for citizens by creating a structured and non-adversarial system for dispute resolution. However, questions are also being asked. Will the office truly operate independently? Will its recommendations be enforceable? Can it effectively check abuses by powerful revenue agencies? And will ordinary Nigerians actually have access to it? For many observers, the success of the tax ombudsman may ultimately depend on transparency, public awareness, institutional independence, and the willingness of tax authorities to submit to oversight. The conversation is about balance, ensuring that while government pursues increased revenue, taxpayers are also protected from abuse, injustice, and arbitrary actions. This is the focus of today's conversation. For more, over now to our guests in the studio.
All right, many thanks, Timothy Yusuf, for the background reports. And let's begin the conversation here in the studio by introducing Farouk Abdullahi, who is Chairman, Ultimate Spectrum and Financial Analyst. It's a pleasure to welcome you again to Good Morning Nigeria.
It's always my pleasure. Good morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria. And we also have here in the studio Chris Kaka, Coordinator, Trade Network Initiative, Economist and Policy Analyst. You're welcome to Good Morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. And thank you, listeners.
All right, let's begin the conversation. Let me begin with Farouk. You know, for many Nigerians, taxation is often seen as a burden rather than a social contract. So what does the creation of the Office of the Tax Ombud mean? What does it change?
Thank you very much. Before I respond to your question, it's good to put a context to the entire topic. I think the creation of the Office of the Ombud is meant, to protect the rights of taxpayers. As we all know, taxpayer protection, is very vital and important, especially if you look at any modern economy. Taxation is not considered merely as a mechanism, to generate revenue, but also as a social contract, between the citizens and the government. On one hand, the citizens are obligated to pay tax. On the other hand, the government is also obligated to protect the right of, taxpayers. So at the heart of everything, confidence will be built in the government, and taxpayers are also to be considered as partners, to national development, not as, tools of generating revenue by the government. So the creation of the tax, the Office of the Tax Ombud, I think it happened in November last year. And it was the first.
With the act.
Yeah, it came with the act, with the new act, because the entire tax system have been overhauled, by the recent reform that was done by the current Minister of Finance, which is pretty much of a good one, and it's timely. So that office is part of the tools that to address, or to protect taxpayers from issues arising, as a result of, administrative, or legal procedures that are related to, the collection or the payment of tax. Because taxpayers, before now, are facing a lot of issues in terms of, the issue of multiple taxations. Most people, find it utterly inconvenient for them and unfair to be paying tax more than once or twice on the same, business or line item. So this issue, is something that people need to be aware of, that there is an avenue, there's a mechanism that they can go through to address some of these complaints. And the tax collectors are humans. There are issues that arises not only as it relates to multiple taxation, but also arbitrary assessment. Sometimes you will be assessed that you are meant to pay, unrealistic, figures. It can emanate out of human error or any other reason. So if you're not aware of your fundamental rights, how would you be able to address that? And this office is created, to mediate between taxpayers and the citizens. Should, in case you feel that you are treated unfairly or unjustly, you have a first point of contact. They will be able to channel your complaint, and
instead of going to court.
Instead of going to court, so the mediation will be there, and the ombudsman is charged with the responsibility of proffering or mediating or recommending, the solution, to the dispute or issues. And Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians don't know that, having access to such services is free of charge. If you're going to court, you need to, cough out some money, get a lawyer, and it comes with fees. But with the creation of this office, you're going to have access to these services free of charge. In case of harassment, some people, you can look at the small and scale medium enterprises. You can look at, these basic hawkers and whatnot. They make their own sales in tokens. But you see a lot of, tax agents, or tax collectors coming to harass them, collect multiple tax and all of these things. So they have a fundamental right too, which they need to be aware of. They are not expected to be harassed or coerced to pay tax. It is their fundamental right, you know, to have access to information, to know the type of taxes, you know, that is applicable to pay and at what rates, you know, and also the time due for the payment of such taxes. So all of these things, if taxpayers are aware, you know, and they know that they have their own point of contact or complaint, you know, I think it will instill not only confidence by the citizens, but also the revenue generation would also be up, because you won't be coerced. It's something that, you know, you feel protected, and if you are able to oblige by that, you know, you won't have any reservation on that.
Yeah, indeed. I'm glad that you laid the foundations, you know, and you know, in Nigeria, taxpayer protection has become very, very important. Like what you outlined, small business is being taxed, multiple tax, and then the complaints with little money, and then it's taken away in tax. Now let's bring in Kaka Chris into this conversation now. Can you break it down for us? You know, the key areas of taxpayer protection here in Nigeria. Break it down for us so that we understand it step by step.
Okay, thank you very much again for having me in your studio. Well, in terms of protections, first let me say that the Office of the Ombuds is something quite new to us in our tax system.
Yeah, and why do we need it now?
Okay, well, like you said, you perhaps needed to actually protect citizens, because obviously there are so many sections. If you read the Acts, even though it's a balanced document, there are obligations of citizens, there are also responsibilities to them, and it more looks, they tell you what you have to do, and if you don't do it, these are the sanctions to you. For instance, if you don't register for TIN now, I mean, for the first month, starting from when this Act took effect, you are liable to pay 50,000 naira. That's what it is. And for every other month you fail to also get a TIN, 25,000 naira. So if from January to now you don't have a TIN, you can just imagine it. And for a company, nobody's allowed to give you any contract. If they do, they have to pay a fine of 5 million naira. These are some of the sanctions that are also contained. If you do not file the necessary returns, you're also likely. I think it's important to say before I answer your question that registering for tax does not mean you have to pay tax. Even if you don't make income, you are just required to file and say, "This, I've never made any money this year, or this is what I made is actually not within the tax. I am not liable to pay any tax," but you are required to actually file for tax return. The Office of the Ombudsman, for me personally, I have it as mixed feelings, as it were. It provides, basically for me, there are three areas it wants to actually begin to address issues. Issues relating to administrative handling of tax issues, issues relating to unreasonable delays, issues relating to tax service failure from the Nigerian Revenue Service. If you look at those three items, you're beginning to wonder what service would they render to me. I'm the one actually to pay my tax in the first instance. The ask is to give me my tax line certificates and all the rest of it. So the ball starts with me. If I do not comply, I'm in problem. Now, issues relating to tax liability. If a tax office, if a relevant tax authority, maybe at the state level or the federal level, tax me as an individual. Let's assume I file my tax return today, and I file a certain amount of money. The tax authority, according to Section 10 of the RTA, said, look, they can accept, they can reject, they can accept, and also make additional assessment of what you have. So if I say my tax liability is 500,000 naira for a year, they could tell me, no, based on your various income that we have seen, you are perhaps due to pay almost about 1.2 million naira. That becomes an issue. Now the Ombuds Office might provide a recommendation after mediating. They do it within 30 days. That's a fast track anybody could ever do. But then the decision they reach is only recommendation, and the tax authority is not supposed to, it's not held to it. Yes, so it's not justiciable anyway. And the utilitarian value of it is almost next to nothing. So you begin to wonder, it's almost like a toothless bulldog as it is. You make a recommendation and say, look, this person should be fairly treated. This is what we found that should be. The tax authority, the relevant tax authority, is at the state level or the federal level, is not duty bound to honor it. So if there is an ongoing case between you and the tax authority, that issue will continue to linger if they are doing an additional assessment on you, even while they are trying to do within 30 days a mediation in it. So it's the powers of it is neither here nor there, and it's important they actually look.
How much of a lacuna do you think this is?
Okay, so I've told you what the services they actually provide for you, and outside that particular space, in fact, your case, yes, it saves you the trouble of unnecessarily trying to go through the legal process of taking maybe the Nigerian Revenue Service to court. You may never win a case against it. Even if you take it to a state, maybe say you go to Adamawa Inland Revenue Service, your personal income tax has not been paid, or what you filed is not actually adequate. You wouldn't be able to have any case against them. So for me, you need to actually give it a bite. And it doesn't have that bite. The decision you make doesn't have that bite for you to actually make any meaning to anybody. So yes, you save me the money of actually going to court. You save me the money of going through a series of litigations or being turned around by the tax authorities here and there, because they will find a way of actually turning you around just to ensure they get away with what they want to bill you with. But that particular decision they make for you, it's not binding anywhere. And that becomes worrisome for most of us. So
is there an obligation for the NR
itself? I mean, the State Inland Revenue Service, we have the yes, if you make one that is actually aligning with what they actually have on ground, why would they not accept it? They will actually accept it because you've also helped in actually dealing with issues of grey area. But I think more importantly, the office of the Ombudsman, as much as we think it's come to play a particular role, my personal opinion though, it does not take away, it is not having the kind of power the TAT has, the tax appeal tribunal. Whatever decision that tax appeal tribunal reach, no tax authority, no relevant tax authority is not allowed to bind, it's not binding to it. You are actually expected to actually comply with it. So for me, personal opinion, it is not the relevant tax authority, either at the state or at the national level, it's not really much obligated to hold on to whatever recommendations, because whatever they are finding is just been a recommendations. It does not have any bite anywhere.
It does not. That means it cannot back and bite.
Exactly, that's what it is.
Cannot back. Okay, Farouk, that's his opinion. Actually, he said, and I would like your own opinion on it. And you know, experts like yourself have said that Nigerians need more tax education. Like a woman that is selling akara by the roadside, beans and rice by the roadside, or doesn't even understand what this means. So, you know, the tax reform has brought in so many things on the table. It's sort of a mixed potpourri of so many things that it's, for somebody who is even educated, it's confusing. So does the tax office need to educate people more on that? Yes, we're doing it right now, but do we need more out there?
Well, absolutely yes. But related to your first question, in light of his own opinion, I have, somehow a divergent view on what he said.
That's it.
Because this office, the Ombuds office, is an additional layer, to offers taxpayers protection. I told you initially that any taxpayer that feels, challenged or treated unfair can approach the tax ombuds office to register his complaint. And the whole idea of the office is to mediate and provide solution. And that is why, if you look at the whole idea of mediation, the result is always a win-win. If you look at dispute resolutions in court, it is a win-lose, outcome. So definitely, if you look at small and medium enterprises, like someone selling akara on the street who can't afford a lawyer, can easily approach this office, register a complaint, and this office is an independent, mediator that calls on the tax authorities, understands the complaint and provides solution. And in case of even businesses, individuals and companies that are not satisfied with the outcome of the mediation, that is why there's another additional layer, which is the tax appeal tribunal, where that tribunal is dedicated to preside on disputes related to tax matters, tax administrations and whatnot. If that also didn't suffice, there's also another additional layer, which is the Federal High Court. The taxpayers that felt that they are unfairly treated can approach the High Court if the tax appeal tribunal didn't work. And there are other layers, to dispute, resolutions through court processes, even up to the Supreme Court. So it is just an additional layer that I feel any modern economy requires, because it instills confidence on taxpayers that, look, I have a listening ear that I can register my complaint, and without getting to pay a dime, within a spate of 1 month, I must see result. Issues of harassment, issues of arbitrary assessment, issues of multiple taxations, issues, around confidentiality, because the tax authorities have access, to sensitive information of taxpayers, their bank accounts, their transactions and everything, so their national identification numbers and all of those informations, which, if exposed, can register serious vulnerability onto the taxpayers. So if at all any issue arises, this office is created to resolve such issues. And if you look at modern economies, they also have similar, offices where they can register their complaints.
And they have a system that works.
And they have a system that works, yes, actually. And these reforms that gave birth to the creation of these offices, this office, the Tax Ombuds Office, is meant to make the system works. You understand? As I told you, it is seamless, it is nearly instantaneous.
I like the fact that you mentioned other climes, developed countries.
Absolutely.
How accessible is that office? How accessible will it be to the informal sector where we know small businesses exist?
So this is related to the second...
Without the bottlenecks.
This is related to the second option, second question that you asked me about sensitization. Information, creating awareness. It is very critical. No matter how, they say information is power. It is actually power. Even taxpayers, without being informed, they don't even know their right. They don't know their obligation. They don't even know how to stand and fend for themselves. You understand? So, as part of the mandate of the Tax Ombud Office is also to sensitize people on their rights, taxpayers on their rights. The Tax Ombud Office has that mandate to give Nigerians the necessary awareness. How many Nigerians today are aware of the Tax Ombud Office? So this goes to tell you the level at which people are misinformed, people are disinformed on things that matters. So if Nigerians are aware of this office, how to file complaints, how instantaneous they are expected to get outcomes and results, do you think anybody will just sit back and be harassed? Someone selling akara on the street, one person would come in wearing a white face, the other person a red face, the next person a black face, all requesting for tax. Someone that is generating peanuts. Look at all of those, transporters moving from road to road. You go to every checkpoint, you have to pay tax A, B, C, and D. So it is unfair to tax businesses on a particular line item, multiple taxes at a time.
You talked about confidence, and that's prompted me to ask, how important is the taxpayers' confidence for the health of the economy?
It is at the heart of it. For tax or for revenue generation sustainability to happen, there must be confidence in the system before that could happen. If today we are generating a large amount of money as revenue because of a new system that comes in, for that to get sustained, citizens must have confidence in the system. And how can the citizens have confidence in the system? It's only when they feel that their rights are being protected. And how can they feel that their rights are being protected is if they are being sensitized and being aware of what their rights are. How many people today know that they are not meant to pay multiple taxes? How many people today are aware that they can even claim refunds if they make excess payments of taxes? How many people are aware of that? There's a specific unit within the revenue service, Nigerian Revenue Service, that are in charge of refunding businesses and companies in areas where they are taxed either wrongly or they are overtaxed or excessively. But how many Nigerians are aware? Both the big companies, the small businesses, and individuals. So this goes to tell you that a lot of work needs to be done in the area of sensitization. And media houses like this are doing wonderfully well in coming up with this kind of critical issues so that Nigerians can get aware. We have other bodies like the National Orientation Agency. They need to step up and speed up, in making people more aware of, the changes, the reforms that are taking place. If we want this reform to be effective, at the heart of it is creating awareness. Tax literacy, is a fundamental right of every Nigerian, because we are all bound to pay tax. So it is our right to be informed. It is our right to have information at our disposals. And also as citizens, we are also obligated, to know what our right is in terms of taxation, because we all must pay tax. And on the government side, and anyways, for both the government and the citizens, as I earlier described, both are stakeholders to national development. This taxation is meant to address critical national issues in terms of healthcare, infrastructure, security, education, and also social programs. So if Nigerians feels that, look, we are paying taxes and the impact is there, so that confidence that you mentioned will be instilled. It will be there.
It will be there. It will be imbibed in
absolutely
in our system.
And willingly we'll pay our taxes.
Yes, indeed. Current conversations, around taxpayer protection are tied to sort of broader fiscal reforms. Tax administration, modernization, digital tax systems, and all that. But there's also a growing debate, about balance itself between government revenue generation with the economic hardship and citizens' rights. Citizens demand for better health, better roads, better housing, better all the time. And but I would also like you to speak to us about the education itself. You demand, how much are you giving? And when you give, what do you get? And who do you hold accountable for it?
Okay, thank you very much. I'm excited my colleague did not, he also said that the Ombudsman office is also advisory. I thought he was also going to be contradictory to it. In any case, let me address a couple of issues he has also raised, just to buttress what he has also mentioned. Is the fact that people in the informal sector, the new tax regime we have, has been very, very fair to them. If you're in the informal sector, where like the Akara woman, you've been citing the illustrations, you must understand there are levels where they are actually taxed. The tax reform The federal government has got tax responsibility. States has also got, local government have also got it. The reforms has not taken away these 3 tiers of government taxing you. The presumptive tenement rate, for instance, is not collected at the federal level. It's collected at the local government level. So FCT where you're living now could come knock at your door and tell you got to pay tenement rate as a tenant living in a particular house. It is not the NRS that actually collects. Neither is the state collecting it. And so there's a movement here that to actually converge everything where one body, a state inland revenue service, which is just an administrative body for the collection of personal income tax and other taxes. Because the law is actually made at the federal level. Is that, look, can we collect these taxes for you? I use a FCT, for instance, now. Can I take the A6 area council, rather than each area council collecting the taxes, can the FCT IRS collect for you, just being one collection spot, then remit to every other, each one of the local government what we have collected, rather than you going to this person, they come and collect income tax for you, this other local government is coming to collect, you move to another local government collecting. This taxes you see on the road, the moment he leaves within a particular area council and moves into another one, he's bound to meet a guy on the road asking for another 200 naira because he has left within his area of jurisdiction. And that's the way it goes for them. For him, that looks like a multiple tax, but in reality, it's exactly not what it is. It is that every area council has got what they collect, the federal has got what they collect, the state has got what they collect, and the current tax reform has not taken away that particular right of any one of them. Now, to address the issue, tax compliance is a very important thing. I agree with you. I agree with him that, look, the whole idea of about taxation is not much of about collecting money from citizens. In fact, one critical service it provides is that it helps to balance the inequality in society. So you're taking from the very rich and trying to take money from the very rich to actually provide services to the very poor people. But then the question always remains is, are they really providing the service? My opinion when I present paper is, if you collect a particular tax from us, can you tie to a particular project? Today now, gambling is actually being taxed. That's the percentage they actually take on it. If you take a particular tax from me, can you tie to a specific project I want to see? This thing we call sin tax, like excise levy, government puts it on an item to discourage you from consuming it. That's why we call it sin tax. It's not going to stop you from consuming it, but it's going to put a heavy tax on it. Alcohol, for instance, tobacco, for instance. If you have to do it, you pay extra. So if it's a big habit for you, you continue. Same thing with gambling.
Discouraging it.
Because, the trade rule does not permit you to stop people who are importing such things. They might give you retaliatory trade actions, but the government would discourage you from actually consuming it by putting a heavy tax burden on it. If you do that, can we mobilize that resources and tie it to a specific project you want to do? What happens in our clan here is government mobilizes all tax revenue and say this is what we it just ends up in the rubbles of other kind of resources, and you can't specifically tie it to a particular thing and say this is what government has done with my tax revenue.
In the case of tobacco, for instance, is it not tied to health?
No, of course. But then can you draw the nexus between the revenue generated from tobacco smoking, from tobacco company, which is huge amount of money, and generate a specific particular project for me? You can't, as it were. And so what we're saying is, if you take a particular tax item, can you tie it to a particular specific project that the civil society can go and verify? This is the money you generated. This is what is done with it. To mobilize resources, oil revenue, tax revenue, and everything together, and say you are promoting development, it's not really going to work. That's why you see that Nigerian government continues to borrow money every time. We have a fiscal deficit that even our unborn children is actually going to be confronted with. We have compromised the capacity of our future generation to actually independently stand on their own and be able to solve the problem of this country because government continues to borrow. We have said this particular system will generate the money. Let me address another issue. People in the informal sector have got what we call presumptive tax. A lot of them, the challenge they have is that they don't have a record of accounts. All that money comes in, money goes out. Some of them don't even have at all in the first instance. Beyond the woman who sells on the street, there are artisans who have shops, but their record of accounting is not good enough that when the tax authority ever comes to you, or if he has to file, by the way, the law permits us to do self-assessment. The tax authority does not have to come to you for you to do a self-assessment. Section 4, Section 5 of the Tax Act actually says that. I am expected to do a self-assessment whether I am liable to pay tax or not. As a taxable person, I am supposed to do it. And it's not only an individual or company. In fact, ministry, department, and agency of government at the national, sub-national level are expected to also do the same thing. Because I work for you, you collect my taxes, you deduct, you have to remit to the government. You must file tax return. And if you don't, government will fine you for it. So the presumptive tax help people who are in the informal sector. And the rule says if you earn less than 12 million naira per annum, you are not supposed to pay anything, but you are expected to actually file your tax return. If I earn more than 12 million naira within that particular informal sector, I only pay 1% of my revenue generated for a particular year as tax return. For those of us, those in the formal sector, your first 800,000, there is always a misgiving that if you earn less, 800,000 means if I aggregate all your income you make from your side hustle, your regular income, I add it up together, the first 800 is taxed at 0%. Subsequent one goes with 15, 18, 21, 23, up to 25, thereabout. You will see that there are provisions within the tax system that allows people not to. So I may perhaps be within the tax net, but I do not pay tax at the end. All my obligation is I must file, do self-assessment once a year, and I file it. If I fail to, I'm going to pay a fine. According to Section 101, I'm going to pay a fine of 100,000 naira for that particular month, which I actually violated it. And good enough, it ended in April just here. Ordinarily, it's supposed to be January 4. So it's important that people in the informal sector who are always suffering the whole idea of multiple taxation is that the system has come to provide a solution to you. But then at the subnational level, it is important that you harmonize what they are doing there with what is obtainable at the federal level. That way, state will not tax you, federal tax you, local government will still tax you. As we speak today, they are still taxing everybody as it is.
They are still taxing everybody. I like the fact that you raised some of these pertinent issues, and it all boils down to trust itself. Yeah, that's it. Trusting in the government and what the government can do for you. When you're taxed, you need to see where your money is going to. So, Farouk, how does weak trust in government sort of affect tax compliance in Nigeria, based on that?
Well, I think it's a direct no, it's a direct question you're asking. The answer is very glaring. You know, nobody complies to or succumb to participating, you know, in things that he doesn't trust, that they don't trust. Nobody does that. So trust is very vital, is very key. So people easily trust what they visibly see. For instance, if we are seeing roads, hospitals, infrastructure, and whatnot, we will trust the government and will be more than willing to pay tax to see more of it. Secondly, everything revolves around protecting taxpayers. If taxpayers are not protected, how can they trust the system? How can they have confidence in the system? There's no way. They have to feel protected. And there are several rights that the taxpayer has. Right to information, for instance. Right to not pay multiple taxes. That's right to non-multiple taxation. The taxpayer also have right to fair treatment. And a whole lot of, you know, other rights that are associated to the taxpayer. So if the taxpayer feels infringed in any of these rights, tell me how can he trust the system? And that is why this reform, you know, comes with this optimization in terms of protection of, you know, the rights of taxpayers. But what is critical is awareness. That is where the major bulk of work is required. Sensitization, creating awareness. The Nigerian Revenue Service is doing that, but they have to do more of it. Engage consultants, you know, engage the media houses and any other tax stakeholder in trying to achieve such objective. It's very critical and it's very fundamental. So that is why, for instance, I give you an example, my own personal experience. When this new reform came in, and I tried to look at some of the fundamental rights of taxpayers, and I was able to pick interest in one of it, and I tried to pursue it to the logical end, which is claiming refunds in instances where I felt I have paid more than what is required. Then I took the bold step. I think I researched online. I was able to get, information on the process and the procedures of applying for such refunds. And I did that. I applied for refund. Okay. And the process was seamless with just a simple letter.
And you were refunded?
I'm about to be refunded. Let me put it that way.
Well, you have not been refunded, yeah.
But I was... I
sound confident.
Yes, I'm confident I'll be refunded because the process was seamless. I thought it's something that if I submit a letter, that's the end of it. Nobody will even dare contact me. But I told myself, let me put it to test. Let me hypothesize on it. I submitted the letter. Within a very short space of time, I was contacted, that I should come for interview. They requested some documents. I sat with, their staff. I presented my document. They interviewed me. I responded, and it was all seamless. And they said they will get back to me.
That is you. You introduced yourself. So can you imagine a scenario where maybe a vulcanizer or somebody that, sells, like we say, sells around the road or has a saloon and is not well educated in that area? How do you go about
that? Is why I said sensitization, creation of awareness is very critical.
Whose role is this?
I don't know anybody. Is a collective responsibility within the government stakeholders, NRS. I made mention of National Orientation Agency.
Yeah.
It's also your responsibility as the media house.
That is what we are doing.
Absolutely. So more of this needs to. There has to be a dedicated program for that. You understand? Everybody pays task. Engage as much as possible consultants. I'm glad the Chartered Institute of Taxation is here. They also have that shared responsibility of creating awareness within the public. And I think it should be part of their core mandate too.
Okay, let's introduce him now. Let's pause here and introduce him. Our other guest is here, seated here in the studio, Benjamin Namadu, Chairman, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, Abuja District Society. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning, Nigerians.
I believe you've been listening to this conversation. Let's have your opinion on the new Ombuds Office and how it will impact the tax office and also Nigerians who pay tax.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning once again. I was following up on his conversation about the need for taxpayers to be aware of their rights. I think it's part of the core mandate of this issue of rights of taxpayers that we are conversing about this morning. The Office of the Tax Ombuds is a new innovation in our tax ecosystem. It hasn't been there before. The new tax law, I think section part 6 of the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act brought it to the fore. And then what is it meant to achieve? The idea behind it is that we have layers of taxpayers' appeal and objection when you are not satisfied with the tax system before now, majorly starting at the tax appeal tribunal. But the challenge therein is that the processes of approaching the appeal tribunal is quite complicated for an ordinary taxpayer. So it then became imperative that we have another system that could accommodate everybody within this tax space. That's why the Office of the Tax Ombuds was introduced. if you check, part of their mandate is that they are not expected to charge any fee for the service they render for taxpayers. That means every taxpayer who feels that their rights under our tax laws have been violated can approach this body, lay their complaints, and they come in as an arbiter, and then they settle this matter without going to the courts or the tribunals. So it's a very wonderful innovation. We see it as something that is going to eventually help our tax system to become more robust and more efficient in the long run.
But before you came in, Mr. Namudu, I mean, when Chris Kaka was speaking, he says basically that the Office of the Tax Ombud can back but cannot bite. Not his words, but this is what he implied. So how effective can the office be in this circumstance?
Well, that backing is a lot. It's all the time you have to back before things are done, bite rather. So the backing is that within the system, somebody is already taking up that responsibility on behalf of the taxpayer. And I can tell you for free, the structure of our tax system that we operate today, most tax administrators don't want matters to be escalated beyond certain levels. So if it is something that can be handled at the level of the tax ombuds, they quickly step in and attend to it. Like my co-panelist was mentioning earlier, when you have issue and you present it to the tax authority, the structure within, I can speak freely for the NRS, the structure they have there is such that the way they manage crisis, they tend to attend to it before it escalates even further. So what the tax ombuds is going to do is be a first layer of appeal for taxpayer. So that backing is a lot. It's telling the tax authority, look, somebody is complaining, you are not getting something right. Please listen to him. Attend to the person. So at some point, when there are disagreements, they can even step in and help mediate between the tax authority and the taxpayer, and then both parties are able to come to an agreeable conclusion, and then there is no need to approach courts and escalate.
So what's your take on multiple taxation that most Nigerians are afraid of? And when you talked about you can just walk into the office and complain. We're in a digital world. Most Nigerians say, I don't have money to go to the office, I will not go. Maybe. Why don't we have a digital platform where complaints can be laid?
Okay.
Don't you think that will work?
It makes a lot of sense. So the tax ombuds office, we are expecting them to come out with their operational modalities. We don't have all those here. Like I said, it's a new office. They are just setting up the structures. I want to believe this is one of the things that they will definitely have to take up so that Nigerians can complain without going to the office.
That will actually happen today because I'm aware they are launching the website and other complaint channels and all of that. So that's
fantastic. So it's definitely going to be there. And then the Nigerian Revenue Service System already have their the lines you can call, the emails, and then they have even done something even better. The new Ref 360 platform they have introduced has a complete console on the website where if you have issues, right there where you are logging in, you can send your complaint and they are receiving it immediately, and then they are attending to it. Get response.
Okay, let's bring Mr. Chris into this conversation, back into this conversation now. We cannot rule out the big elephant in the room, which is corruption, which affects the tax system in Nigeria, we all know, because it's a chain. And when this chain is broken through corruption, what happens to the money that is being collected? Because a lot of people say, even if I pay tax, even if they collect the 200, 300, do they even take it to the tax office? And there are some people who are not even part of the tax system. They are just corrupt Nigerians who just go with ID card that is fake and keep collecting money from people. So let's talk about this thing, corruption, which affects our collection of tax in this country.
Okay, thank you very much. I don't really know where to pick it, but I think it's something all Nigerians, it's a systemic one. It's not something that is episodic. So everybody knows there's a corruption in the system, and the tax system is not immune to it. In my office, for instance, we're doing a project in Yola one time. It was Norwegian Refugee Commission that provided the funding, and the system we work is I double check. everybody will give any service to, maybe you're bidding pit latrines for somewhere in Adamawa, we're taking your withholding tax almost immediately. And at the end of the month, we take everybody's aggregate it, we put a schedule to it, write the checks, submit it to the relevant tax authority. If it's a corporate tax, obviously it goes to the Nigerian Revenue Service. If it's an income tax, personal income tax, we just send it to the relevant tax authority at the state level where the project officer is actually resides. So they walked into my office one day and he came with this very long. I remember it was almost about 12-something million. I said that you have not actually paid the appropriate tax for the preceding year. And be honest with you, when I picked up the phone and called the contact we have at the NRS, because your tax office must be one within the area of your office. There are so many Nigerian Revenue Services office, but the one that is related to your area of that's where your tax place should actually be. And we made a call and said, so officers of yours showed up in our offices, and they said they dropped a letter, actually stamped the office. I mean, you look at the paper, it looks so genuine. And he said, just ignore those guys, they don't know what. He didn't want to give the details, but then the way he said ignore them, with a wave of hand on the phone, was just showing that these guys were actually going around trying to see who is going to fall prey for what they do. So I drew that illustration to also buttress what you said, that there's corruption in the system itself. At the federal level, and that's why I said, look, when you collect a lot of taxes and everything get mixed up somewhere, like my colleague said earlier, if you show me what you do with my tax revenue, I am more willing to want to. Tax compliance is a very easy thing. I'll do self-assessment of myself. If I am defaulting in certain area, I'll do it. But like you said, there are areas of the tax, for instance, like the allowances you're supposed to be given. I'm supposed to remove from it every year my rent allowance from it. My rent allowance is not supposed to be taxed to a maximum of 500,000. I mean, if you break that down, if you divide 500,000 naira by 12, you can't do any less than 40,000 naira a month thereabout. If you take that and add it back to my salary, it's something every month. Again, the life assurance policy, if I take up one for myself or my spouse, it's not supposed to be taxed as well. So if my total revenue is this, I'm supposed to remove that, remove my rent, remove this one before I'm taxed. Again, if I borrowed money from a financial institution to actually embark on a self-owned house, I am not supposed to be taxed for that particular money I'm actually using. That's why people prefer to borrow money.
You're paying interest.
Yes. People prefer to borrow money to build a house than using their own savings to build a house, because as you use the one you have, it's already taxed. There are other allowances I'm supposed not to pay. Okay, for instance, my pension, 8%, I'm supposed to be deducting it from it. People in the private sector don't really do that. My national housing funds, about 2.5% of my basic salary. These are things that they are supposed to deduct from it. Even people who work in the formal sector, if you don't provide the evidence to some of these things, like my housing, they wouldn't take it into consideration, because the evidence must be there before they provide those allowances. I'm sure that's what my colleagues may have referred to in certain instances, if it's a personal one, or maybe for corporate organization where you've actually been overtaxed. So the idea is, government is expected, as it were, to be able to let us have a nexus between each type of tax you collect. Like that tobacco tax you were actually mentioning. Can we tie it to a particular things? I've told you today that people who get involved in gambling are now being taxed 5%. The lottos, the rest. I said one day, they were laughing in your studio when I mentioned Baba Jebu. Every gamble you play right now, there is an element of it. Do you know that most of the social vices that the youths are actually involved with actually be aided by this? You see them sit down, some are very good at actually doing this permutation. In any case, they're all related to football. And some who can predict football very well make a lot of money. He makes a lot of money, he goes and squanders and commits some crime elsewhere. So can we collect that particular money? Don't mix it up with other revenue. Can you create something that, it's actually meant to take youths away from these particular issues and vices? That way, when he's paying, this is what my money is being done with. You collect tax revenue in the marketplaces. Can we see the facility you're providing in the market? You don't need to force anybody to pay, because everybody is proud to say, oh, my tax money has been used to build this bridge, and I can link it to it, even if it's a minute amount of money. Until government come to that point where we can have a nexus between the revenue we generate and, the tax I pay and the aggregate government collects to a particular service that is related to me as well. So don't collect money from me. when I'm in a particular sector, I'm going to use it to develop another sector. It's not really going to make
Okay, Nigerians are contributing to this conversation. They have questions. Let me read the ones I have, then Victor will read before we go to the next question. So, good morning, Nigeria. Tax revenue generation is a very good and better way of generating funds for the infrastructural development of any nation in the world. However, I hope and pray the creation of the new office will make sure of processes of generating tax is monitored and make sure funds generated are not diverted to public individuals' pocket. That's from Alhaji Garko Karu site, Abuja. And Salah Yakubu from Lagos said, my opinion on protecting taxpayers in Nigeria is that people will accept paying tax if they can see what it does. Potholes filled, schools running, PHC stocked with drugs. Right now, the big trust issue is I pay, but where does it go? Public dashboards for budget releases and project completion at state, local government level will help a lot. It's hard to justify tax protection if citizens can't hold officials accountable. And this one didn't leave a name. He said, how can citizens be protected from the informal illegal levies and taxes being collected from drivers, Okada riders, haulage vehicles, etc. that are being passed on to consumers?
All right, perhaps Farouk will want to respond before we take I have a couple here.
Okay, to start with the last question, I think digitization of tax administration is at the heart of resolving most of these issues. If filing is made online, assessment, we have e-filing, e-assessment, and we have online complaint mechanisms, so a lot of issues will be resolved in terms of corruption, in terms of double taxation, in terms of even harassment, of taxpayers. This will go a long way in mitigating most of these issues. And the other question that goes to asking how also taxpayer money can be tracked and in case of diverting public funds and whatnot. You see, there are agencies. The Tax Ombuds Office has its own mandate, and it is not within the mandate of the Ombuds Office to address issues of corruption or, financial malpractices. That is why we have ICPC, we have the EFCC, and we even have the NFIU, we have the police. These are government institutions that are saddled with the responsibility of ensuring that this kind of issues are being handled, accordingly and appropriately.
All right, thank you. Let me take the couple of messages that I have here. From Ahmed Babadikwa in Maiduguri, protecting taxpayers means building trust, he writes. Too many Nigerians pay taxes, but see poor roads and broken hospitals in return. The government must guarantee three things: transparency in spending, visible public services for every tax paid, and an end to harassment by aggressive consultants and illegal levies. When taxpayers are protected, they pay willingly, turning forced compliance into true patriotism. All right, thank you. This other one is without a name. Good morning, NTA. The tax laws are too academic. Beautiful principles, nice policies, but there's one fundamental obstacle: corruption. What are the mechanisms for punitive measures for those who embezzle? Of course, it's responded it's not within their mandate. But finally, from here, Nana from Port Harcourt. Why is it that tax officials always visit taxpayers with the mindset of crucifying them? Can tax officials be properly educated to curb some of these anomalies? And finally, Stephen Adewale from Ikorodu, Lagos. Good morning. Please, where do I go to lodge a complaint on tax issues? I paid a tax from June 2016 to January 2020, but the company did not issue me tax certificate, even up till now. Let's begin with Benjamin and Amudu. You have response for?
Yes, a couple of them. I think most of the conversation circle around issue of taxpayers' rights, and then access to the right information. Like I mentioned earlier, taxpayers have right to correct information. And it's good we are doing what we are doing now, still helping the tax space for people to know what their rights and obligations are. So Ahmed from Maiduguri did mention issues around harassment from tax officials, and then Nana talked about tax authorities going with a mindset, so
being educated themselves.
Exactly. So the issue still borders around having the right information. So one of the things that was brought into this new Tax Reform Act is that, one, for instance, just two instances I will give. You are not allowed to pay taxes in cash anymore, right? Two, you cannot put roadblocks anywhere in Nigeria in the name that you want to collect tax. So if any tax person approaches you and you pay him cash, just know that from that singular transaction, that money is already missing somewhere along the way. So you are not expected to pay cash. But we could have instances where some of the subnationals would probably say they don't have the infrastructure and the system for now to do the cashless tax environment. But what we expect is that as we transition into the full implementation of the new tax laws, everything around cash will be eliminated. And what that does is that it tacitly eliminates corruption from the system. So when we say we want to address issues of corruption in the system, you need what we call checks in the layers of the whole system that addresses issues around corruption. Then, issues of roadblocks, that is pure harassment. Our tax law has now made it a crime for you to mount roadblock in the name that you want to collect tax. So, but taxpayers need to have this information. So if a tax authority like Mr. Chuka mentioned comes to him and start negotiating, and it involves paying cash to them, then something is wrong somewhere. It's an extortion.
Missing in transition.
It's missing in transit. So what you would do as a taxpayer is that any obligation on you to pay tax, insist that they should give you an account of the tax authority where you pay your money to, and then they issue you evidence of payment. With that, we are able to address quite a large chunk of the corruption that happens within that system. So putting this out for taxpayers to know that this harassment they are facing, one, it could be because they want to get something out of that arrangement. Also, it could also be that that tax officer is not properly trained. You know, at the federal level, the NRS put premium in training and retraining of their personnel so that they are able to attend to taxpayers courteously. But we cannot say that for all the subnationals. So maybe as we evolve, the tax officers and the tax authority begin to learn some of these things afresh, they will be seeing the taxpayer as the king. Because it is the taxes they are paying that they are paying you your salaries from. So it behoves on you to treat them with courtesy and with respect.
Okay, Mr. Chris, quickly in just 30 seconds, implementation is key, and that is one problem we've always had. So how do we go about it?
Well, I think it's actually made input into a lot of them, how we actually begin to implement these things. The point has been made that, look, information is actually key. We all need to be abreast. And I think the NRS is also doing, I know they have some programs on some of radio stations and TV stations where on a regular basis they sensitize Nigerians. How well Nigerians are listening to it, it's another ballgame. I think the tax authority needs, the ombudsman, which is also part of their responsibility, like he pointed out, it's also important for them to continue to sensitize Nigerians. I think the media is doing a lot in that direction, but I think much more needs to be done, particularly with people in the informal sector, and particularly with authorities at the subnational level. That's where a lot of harassments and multiple taxation really begins to happen. They actually need to actually be addressed. I mean, giving some proper training to see how these things can actually go on seamlessly, so that Nigerians can really do self-assessment and compliance, as it were.
All right, I guess that would be a fine place to leave this conversation. It's something that we'll have to discuss over and over as the Office of the Tax Ombud begins its work and Nigerians get more familiar with it. So let me thank Chris Kaka, who is an economist, National Coordinator, Trade Network Initiative, and Policy Analyst. We appreciate your time and your thoughts. Let me also thank Farouk Abdullahi, who is Chairman, Ultimate Spectrum, and the Financial Analyst. Thank you very much, as always, for coming on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. It's always my pleasure.
And the last but not the least, Benjamin Namudu, who is the Chairman, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria in Abuja, and District Society. We appreciate your coming. We appreciate your thoughts. We appreciate, the points that you made on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, that does it for this conversation. Our next is on the 50th anniversary of Ratawu. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us until after this break.
Joy, unleash taste. The world needs moms. With a splash of golden Terra oil, a mom can transform a frown into a smile. Change no thanks into yes please. Resolve family feuds without blowing a whistle. Providing tasty family meals is all that matters. Where there are moms, there is love. Golden Terra oil, pour pure love.
Impress, 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 impress.
Guys, food is ready.
Cook to impress. Godrich Air Pocket? Wow!
With Power Gel technology, keeps the bathroom fresh for up to 30 days. Godrich Air Pocket. Bye-bye bad smell. Hello sweet fragrance.
Give more strength to your hair with Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener. It's infused with nourishing oils and conditioning proteins so you can say goodbye to hair breakage. Wow! Mega Growth Leave-In Strengthener.
Confidence is important in life's little moments. Strong teeth can help, even if they get her into trouble sometimes. A great smile is useful to break the ice, and making friends is easier when you know you have fresh breath. I give my family confidence with Pepsodent Triple Protection 123. Its antibacterial action formula gives them cavity protection, white teeth, and fresh breath. Get whiter teeth with a new Pepsodent Natural Charcoal Toothpaste.
Àjọ elétò ìdìbò ilẹ̀ Nàìjíríà tí à ń pè ní INEC ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìpele kẹta àti ìtókẹ́yìn fún ìforúkọsílẹ̀ olùdìbò káàkiri orílẹ̀-èdè yìí. Ìforúkọsílẹ̀ yìí á bẹ̀rẹ̀ ní ọjọ́ Ajé ọjọ́ 11 oṣù karùn-ún ọdún tí a wà nínú rẹ̀ yìí tí yóò sì parí ní ọjọ́ 10 oṣù keje ọdún yìí bákan náà. Àǹfààní yìí wà fún gbogbo àwọn tí ò tí fi orúkọ sílẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀ rí tàbí àwọn tó ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ pé ọmọ ọdún 18. Àwọn tó fẹ́ fi orúkọ sílẹ̀ lè ṣàbẹ̀wò sí ojú òpó ìforúkọ ìforúkọsílẹ̀ INEC ní www.cvr.inecnigeria.org tàbí kí wọ́n lọ sí ọ́fíìsì INEC tó bá wà ní agbègbè wọn níbi tí wọn ó ti tẹ̀ka pẹ̀lú fi àwòrán wọn sílẹ̀. Tí káàdì olùdìbò yín PVC bá ti sọnù tàbó bàjẹ́, ẹ lọ sí ojú òpó ìforúkọsílẹ̀ náà tàbí kẹ́ lọ sí ọ́fíìsì INEC láti béèrè fún ìrọ́pò rẹ̀. Ìkéde yìí wá láti ọ̀dọ̀ iléeṣẹ́ olómìnira tó ń ṣètò ìdìbò ní Nàìjíríà, INEC.
Progress no dey happen just like that. It dey come from support when you need am.
Mommy, I got the school fees. You too much.
Na money point o.
Money point, thank you.
Customer, na transfer abi? Confirm.
Bro, na transfer o.
Na money point o da. Oh, na confirm.
Progress na peace of mind when you know say payment go land as sure banker. Progress na small win wey dey carry person go far.
No worry, yourself go make am. Mo go buy ball.
Victor, even you dey use money point?
Of course na, they use money point.
Confirm.
Money point, made for your progress.
Oh, remember how mom used to wake up before everybody to make breakfast, iron our uniform? That's surprise that woman with something special.
Treasure Mom this 2026 with a trip to Zanzibar in the 3 Crowns Mom of the Year competition. Write a note using each letter in your mom's name and upload with a photo of 5,000 Naira worth of 3 Crowns products on our website or at any of our collection centers. T's and C's apply. 3 Crowns Milk. Healthy moms, happy families.
All right. This is still Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Now, it's a major milestone as the Radio, Television, Theatre and Arts Union, Ratawu, celebrates 50 years of championing the interests of media and arts workers across the country.
And with activities set to kick off officially on Tuesday, we are joined by the president of Ratawu, Prince Emeka Kalu, to tell us more about the Golden Jubilee celebration. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria and congratulations on your win.
Thank you very much, woman leader Northeast Emeritus.
That was then. I'm letting you do now.
But what's there to celebrate 50 years, apart from the years?
Golden era celebration, 50 years, a milestone of achievements ranging from weighing allowance that never existed to monetization for federal workers. And in this golden era, we are really going to beam smiles, bring good, well-being packages. Not just welfare packages, well-being packages for members of Ratawu. It's already on the air. Everybody's basking in the euphoria of this milestone celebration. I really want to tell you that I always say that the key to the future lies definitely with the past and present. If you do not know where you're coming from, you won't know where you'll be going to. Because most of the times we do not count our blessings. That's why we don't know whether we're progressing or not. If you recall that the Radio, Television, Theatre and Art Workers Union, largest umbrella body for media and cultural workers, existed inside a bag for somebody like you who was once the Northeast chairperson, woman leader. It existed during the era of Ndemekben. Nothing was happening as regarding the protection of professional rights of workers, protection of their professional rights, getting to engage in collective bargaining for their well-being, not just welfare, until 1977, when the federal government embarked on the restructuring of unions, associations, all of them. 12 were involved then. So they brought potholes of associations, unions, little ones. There was an association for radio. There was for television. And also there was for theater. There wasn't for art. So by 1977, they brought all these together
under
as
one umbrella.
Under one umbrella. All over the world. That's why we do not just say largest umbrella body for arts, media, and broadcast media and cultural workers. We do not just say that in Nigeria. It's all over the world. Ratawu is the only union across the globe that has the Association for Radio, Association for Television, Arts, Media, Culture, Theatre, in one as a union. What does this suffice? We were working without having commensurate pay for it. We were not even recognized, not even minding that creation, according to some religious accounts, started with the voice, with the word. And the essence of radio, how it came to Nigeria, was for the colonial masters to send their messages to the people who were like in Nigeria. They wanted their people living in Nigeria to know exactly how the Second World War was going. That's how it came to Nigeria here. They wanted to control the narrative, to let them know, so people will not panic. Even if 50 had been killed, if they would decide to say it's 2, the people here will relax.
No, but so, how well has Ratawu adapted to the digital era?
Digitization, that's what I said. I was trying to, when I said, if you do not know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going to. The only thing that is permanent is change. And nature endows everything with a weapon for survival. Your ability to survive depends largely on how well you use that. When broadcasting, the Latin word, casting broadly, sowing, like the sower who sows the seed. He or she brings the seed, pours it germinates. Broadcast. When it started, people could climb the tree to talk, to pass their messages. They were town criers. And they discovered that there's a limit to which human voice could go. Mr. Hayes did an engineering scientific invention experiment where magnetic light could reflect and make a sound, produce a sound. From there, which is why you see megahertz, kilohertz, they're all named after the German Mr. Hayes. It continued. It was purely analog. They could do this cable work when you bring one box, like those the predominantly habited Ikoyi, the white-lived the people in Ikoyi who could afford it, could pay like £5 and they keep it on top of their building and they stream in, take it. We continued like that till we got to a point where the black and white television came up, where people, NTA, in the greatness of NTA that is unprecedented and will not be raised in those era, though the Gen Z will not understand what I'm talking about. Anybody that could afford the black and white television, we operated from the bag, from there to rented under the current DG of NTA, Comrade President Salah who was president of Ratawu between 1998 through 2008 for 10 years, the longest serving president ever of Ratawu. During his era, we had 2 rooms at the Sky Memorial. After that, he was, if somebody succeeded him, his boy, Yemisi Bangboshe, who is now the executive secretary of Bonn, succeeded him in 2008 through 2016. He was able to relocate the union from the Sky Memorial
to permanent sort of still temporary, because nothing is permanent on earth, because you keep improving on it. I do not think where we are deserves to be a permanent site, but it was amazing. It was a permanent site as at that time. So it goes to show you what I'm saying. Okay. At the point he built the secretariat then, it was the best the union could have ever had.
Okay, quickly, can you give us a quick purview of some of the key activities lined up in the anniversary program? And I hear that the Honorable Minister of Information is involved in everything that is happening.
For a long time, for a long time we existed like a donut, full at the periphery but hollow inside. Some of the organs at the lower level, the chapters, the state councils, made some significant impacts in visibility. Then when you get to the national leadership, the national secretariat was just like that. Ratawu hardly have events that the president and commander-in-chief will attend, or ministers or governors will come at the national level. So we feel he who lights up the way, who points the torch for others to pass through, will always pass through that shadowy path, himself radiating the light. We radiate the light. Without us, no government or governance will be necessary. We provide progress, platform for them to showcase and channel their progress reports and constraint of governance to the people. But we, at the end, they don't identify with us. They treat us like a ladder. You climb, you push it up. You don't remember, you still go down. But like the current Minister of Information, Alhaji Muhammad Idris Malagi FNIPR, is a man who is rooted in the EEAT of reputation, expertise, exemplary leadership. He is also authoritative, and he is trustworthy in his projection of activities of the government. So he understands the role of the media, because he's a media person, a round peg in a round hole. So a square peg also in a square hole. He knows that he needs to carry all agency, all partners in the communication industry and history. And he's been carrying everybody along. He said severally, Ratawu has been the only insider that he's not visited, he's not seen. And when we came, it's a golden era, like we keep saying. Before now, look at how wonderful, amazing. Anybody that sees you knows you're a pretty piece of God's superlative craftsmanship. But before then, you wouldn't have known who you were, and because of what the weather gave to you. The gentleman here who has tested the light of the nation, Anambra, came, and he's radiating at the highest level. We are in the golden era. So we felt we cannot do anything without bringing the government. We want him to come and see where we are, know whether it's befitting for the communication machinery of the government. So tomorrow we will be kickstarting, we'll be flagging off, unveiling the logo and roadmap to the Ratawu at the 50th anniversary Golden Jubilee celebration, because the grand finale will be on the 1st of November 2027. Now, tomorrow...
You're just starting all the way to November?
Yes, tomorrow we're unveiling.
Okay.
We're unveiling the roadmap. And a lot will happen at the Ratawu National Secretariat and Headquarters, Kubwa, opposite Duse Alger, behind that Zenith Bank, that's opposite Duse Alger Express.
Now, we've run out of time, but give us, in a minute, a sneak peek of what the future of Ratawu could look like on your watch.
Including the review of the weigh-in allowance that we have been waiting for a lifetime, actually, for it to be reviewed.
My approach to issues, I'm an unconventional person. I don't follow convention. My approach is that I don't believe in
consistent clamor for wage increase.
Okay.
I believe in good governance, giving the platform, making everything work. When they work, you can apply for car loans if you work. You can have a house, affordable house for workers. When all these are in place, communities will be developed. I was coming to Abuja from the airport and to Kuba from the airport, and I passed through Zuba, and I saw what was transformation by magic. What the Minister of FCT did, the way they lit up the place. One, crime at night is completely abolished. You don't even need light to drive at night. All the landed properties around that area have skyrocketed immediately with just that road they put in there. So when you bring this infrastructure, the clamor to come to the cosmopolitan city will be reduced and diminished completely. You will stay wherever. Every place is a smart city. In far away, anywhere, whatever village, call it anywhere, call it Ohafia, anywhere, it's developed. And you can stay there. There's light, there's accessible road, there's quality health care facility, there's everything.
We better let you go because I think we better come and see what you are doing than allow you to tell us about it. We won't live here. So, but let me thank you very much, Prince Emeka Kalu, President of Ratawu, for coming on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. We celebrate with Ratawu and we wish you the very best.
All roads will lead to Ratawu National Secretary tomorrow. The Honorable Minister and some partners of Ratawu will be there to unveil this. And I know it's your thing, so you'll be there. I know MTA is going to cover it live with other partners.
Thank you so much for coming.
Tomorrow.
And on that note, that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Jumbo Yusuf.
And I'm Victor. So thanks for watching and see you next time.
You can also see us on Facebook and YouTube for quality content on the go. NTA International, Africa's window to the world.
Well, hello. It is great to be back with you again on Lens on Africa.
Let's zoom our lens on its political history at this moment.
Algeria did not have a centralized political structure prior to its colonization by France.
It is now time for our weekly roundup of African history. Welcome to the interview segment on Lens on Africa.
Examines its relevance, the pathways to achieving it.
To sustain productivity, there must be continuity.
Where the winds whisper a secret, to the sands lies the forgotten kingdom of Damat.
It is on this note that we conclude Lens on Africa today.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
This is the network service of the NTA.
Along the bustling Lagos-Ogun Industrial Corridor, Ota stands as one of Nigeria's fastest-growing urban community, a historic Awori kingdom where tradition meets commerce, industry, and modern urban expansion. Renowned for its strategic economic importance, sprawling industrial estates, vibrant markets, and rapidly expanding residential communities, Ota has, over the years, evolved into a major gateway linking Ogun State to the commercial heartbeat of Lagos. Yet, beneath its economic vibrancy lies the growing demand for stronger public infrastructure capable of matching the realities of an expanding population and increasing socio-economic activities. Across Ogun State itself, widely regarded as Nigeria's industrial capital and one of the country's fastest developing investment destinations, the pressure on critical sectors such as security, healthcare, transportation, and social services continues to grow alongside urbanization and industrial expansion. From the busy commercial clusters of Ota and Agbara to the cultural and manufacturing hubs spread across the state, the need for strategic investment in human-centered infrastructure has become increasingly urgent. It was against this backdrop that residents of Ota and neighboring communities witnessed a historic moment on Thursday, May 7, 2026, as dignitaries, traditional rulers, government officials, security stakeholders, healthcare professionals, and community members gathered for the commissioning of two transformational projects: the Ota Central Police Divisional Headquarters and the modern 40-bed primary healthcare center. The project, facilitated through the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals, represents strategic investment in security, healthcare delivery, and sustainable community development within the ancient and paramount Ota land, Awori Kingdom.
We are gathered for the commissioning of the Ota Central Divisional Police Headquarters, and of course, the 40-bed hospital, primary healthcare centers, both constructed and fully equipped by the Office of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goals. This is in line with keeping faith with the United Nations Development Framework, which was adopted on the 25th of September 2015. Following the termination of the previous Millennium Development Goals. The implementation of the SDG started on the 1st of January 2016, and Nigeria has kept faith with it and has been implementing to the latter. Of course, Nigeria has been the first in so many of the implementation frameworks that has been put in place, including delivering 3 successful voluntary national reviews. But beyond policies, Nigeria has also been carrying out strategic key interventions across all geopolitical zones, across all 774 local governments of the country, and of course across all 36 states and the FCT. Today, the train is in Ota, and we are commissioning this program. These are not the only projects we have in Ota, but these are the ones that have been singled out for commissioning today. We believe that the people of Ota, and of course Ogun State, have done well, contributed so much to the development of this country, and they deserve the reward and the presence of federal projects in this place. And that is why the office has been doing all that it has been doing.
The atmosphere around the commissioning venue reflected celebration, pride, and renewed optimism for many residents. The project symbolized more than fiscal infrastructure. They represented responsive governance, hope, and a stronger commitment to improving the everyday lives of ordinary citizens. In his remarks, the Olota of the ancient and paramount Ota land, His Majesty Professor Adeyemi Obalanlege, described the occasion as historic and memorable, noting that the project would significantly enhance the welfare, safety, and well-being of the people of Ota and neighboring communities. According to the revered monarch, the commissioning represented enduring symbols of progress, improved security, accessible healthcare, and purposeful governance. He emphasized that the projects aligned with the aspirations of the people and the broader goals of sustainable development. The monarch expressed appreciation to Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his administration's commitment to inclusive growth and national development, while also commending Dakbo Abiodun for sustaining a peaceful and development-friendly environment in Ogun State. The Olota reserved special commendation for Adejoke Orilokbe Adefulire, who he described as our illustrious daughter and pride of Awori land. He praised her dedication to impactful development and her continued efforts in facilitating projects that directly improve the lives of Nigerians.
On behalf of the good people of Ota, Awori, and Awori land at large, I express our profound gratitude to Almighty God for granting us the privilege to witness this remarkable milestone in the development of our kingdom. We convey our sincere appreciation to the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, GCFR, for his state environment that continues to attract meaningful infrastructure and investment to Ogun State. Today's achievement will, however, not be complete without specifically recognizing our illustrious daughter and pride of our land, the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Sustainable Development Goal, SDGs, Her Excellency Princess Adejoke Orilokbe Adefulire. Your passion for service, commitment to humanity, and dedication to impactful development continue to inspire pride across Ota, Awori land, and Nigeria as a whole. Through yours, the commissioning of these facilities today further demonstrates your enduring commitment to the welfare, safety, and well-being of our people. Ota, Awori deeply appreciates your thoughtfulness, loyalty to your roots.
In post for the district and surrounding communities. He described the project as the restoration of an important legacy of peace, security, and public safety in Ota land. He further applauded the decision to name the healthcare facility after the late Olota of Ota, His Majesty Oba Timothy Oloyede Fadina, noting that the gesture immortalized the legacy of a monarch remembered for peace, unity, and development in the kingdom.
It is particularly gratifying that this police divisional headquarters is situated on a historically significant axis, which in earlier times served as a major policing post for this district and neighboring communities. Today, therefore, represents not just commissioning, but the restoration of an important legacy of peace, security, and public safety in Ota land. All beneficiaries of these laudable projects, we must collectively protect, maintain, and make responsible use of these facilities for the continued advancement of our people and communities.
The Senior Special Assistant to the President on SDGs, Princess Adejoke Orilokbe Adefulire, in her remarks, described the commissioning as a significant milestone in strengthening peace, security, healthcare access, and institutional development in Nigeria. She stressed that the police headquarters directly aligns with Sustainable Development Goal 16, which focuses on peace, justice, and strong institutions. She explained that the project was designed to improve operational capacity, strengthen law enforcement institutions, and foster trust between security agencies and the communities they serve. According to her, sustainable development cannot thrive without peace and security. The presidential advisor, who was represented by the secretary of the program in the office, also linked the intervention to the renewed hope agenda of President Tinubu, noting that the administration continued in critical sectors.
Today, we are not just merely unveiling a structure, we are strengthening the very foundation of which sustainable development goals strives, that is peace, security,